It was Father's Day weekend, June 14th, 1969. The Great Smoky Mountains stretched green and endless, their ridges rolling like the backs of ancient beasts. Families gathered in a high meadow called Spence Field, a grassy bald hemmed in by dark timber. Trails wound down into shadow, and the forest always seemed closer than it looked. 6-year-old Dennis Martin was there with his father William, his grandfather, and his older brother. The Martin family had made this pilgrimage every year, a ritual of trust between father and mountain. That afternoon the boys played a prank, split, circle, and jump out to scare the adults. Dennis, smaller and quieter, slipped behind a clump of brush at the tree line. The others darted away, and minutes passed while light warmed the clearing. Then the boys returned, all except Dennis. William rose immediately, shouting, "Dennis!" The woods stayed silent. The boy who should have been there was gone, only the dark line of trees, swallowing the field. Within 5 minutes, William was running down the Appalachian Trail, convinced his son had simply strayed. He sprinted nearly 2 miles before turning back, dread setting in. No sign of Dennis, no sign of small feet, only silence thick as a wall. The mountain had taken something back. The weather turned on that first night, a storm rolling in like a closing fist. Rain hammered the slopes, erasing tracks and washing away the last easy answers. Searchers later described stretches of forest where birdsong vanished, an eerie, suffocating quiet. It was as if the woods themselves had swallowed sound. The ridges and hollows of the Smokies make a maze, pockets where light dies. There are places where the world seems thinner, where a person could disappear without a trace. A shoe would have been the simplest proof, a child's laugh left behind in cloth and leather. But that day there was nothing, only the thick, patient earth. The storm washed fingerprints from the land, a perfect masking of whatever had happened. Searchers watched helplessly as clues were taken downstream. What followed became one of the largest search operations in Smoky Mountain history. Green Berets, FBI men, Rangers, Boy Scouts. Thousands combed ridges and hollows. Bloodhounds were brought in, noses to the ground, eager to find the thread of a child's path. But the dogs whined, circled, and refused to track, as if the scent stopped cold at the tree line. Searchers began to notice oddities, details that did not add up. No tracks, eerie silences. Strange sightings. No tracks. Despite the wet ground, no footprints matching Dennis's shoes were found. The earth showed no simple answer. Searchers reported stretches where all the birdsong vanished, replaced by a suffocating stillness. It was not just absence, it felt like being held in a breath. A camping family claimed they heard a horrible scream and saw something large moving through the brush. A figure described as like a bear with a man's shape, a sighting that would be buried and never fully explained. The search became immediate, professional, and huge. A net thrown over the mountain. Teams fanned out along ridges, down hollows, into boulder fields. Green Berets arrived, highly trained, operating with a secrecy that raised questions. They worked separately, sharing little with park rangers, an oddity in a missing child case. Days bled into weeks while hundreds scoured the mountain, eyes raw with exhaustion. Hope was a persistent ache, worn thin by rain and mud. When dogs were led back to the tree line, they faltered, pulled, and refused to cross an invisible threshold. To seasoned trackers, this was impossible. A scent should have led somewhere. The first night's storm masked tracks, swelling streams that took away any faint traces. Every clue the searchers hoped for was smudged into the soil. No tracks, even where the ground should have shown a child's passage. It was as though something had removed him cleanly from the world. Searchers stepped into pockets of silence where even insects seemed muted. They described that stillness again and again, a pressing hush that felt alive. One family claimed they heard a horrible scream and saw something large moving through brush. They described it like a bear with a man's shape, a report that slid into paperwork and then quietly vanished. Searchers turned methodical. Grids, ropes, lanes cut through brush and rock. They combed boulder fields and hollows, places where a small body might be hidden. Weeks passed, and the search found nothing. No shoe, no torn fabric, no hint. The family held vigils, calling his name into the dark until their throats were raw. Folklore crept into the gaps. Old Cherokee legends of Sulkalu, the slant-eyed giant. Locals whispered of feral men, wild ones who lived deep in the Smokies. Others said the mountain had places where people simply vanished, seams between worlds. Whether legend or fear, the idea spread like fog through the search camps. The Green Berets' presence raised eyebrows. Why such elite interest for one missing child? They kept their findings close. Some searchers said doors closed that should have opened. Rumors of feral men, half people living off the mountain, circulated among hunters, but nothing credible ever emerged to confirm those whispers. Seasoned trackers scoffed at simple explanations. No drag marks, no torn clothing, no remains. The absence of anything only deepened the mystery. The story leaked into press and rumor, each telling shifting the outline of truth. For the Martins, every image of the boy became both a comfort and a wound. Months passed. The initial frenzy slowed into routine searches and quiet despair. The mountain kept its secret, and the teams went home with nothing more than questions. William returned to Spencefield every year, calling his son's name into the trees. No voice ever answered, only wind and a laugh that might have been memory. To this day, hikers sometimes say they hear high laughter on the wind, fragile and fleeting. A child calling, distant but near, always just out of reach. Officially, the case remained unsolved. Dennis would later be declared legally dead, but the family never found closure. His disappearance fits an eerie checklist noted by investigators of missing 411 cases. Vanished in minutes, no tracks. Dogs refusing to trail. Sudden weather events, vanished within minutes, sometimes within sight of adults. A moment of play that folded into absence. No tracks or physical evidence, even when the ground should have held them. An impossible blank on the map of a child's life. Search dogs refusing the trail. A refusal that sent cold through trackers. Animals reacted as if some boundary had been crossed. Sudden weather events masking evidence. Proximity to boulder fields and heavy forest. Places that swallow sound and light. Theories ranged from simple accident to things harder to name in daylight. Sulkalu, the slant-eyed giant, entered some explanations as myth and warning. Locals whispered of feral men living deep in the Smokies. Human, but not wholly so. No evidence proved their existence beyond rumor and occasional grim finds. The Green Berets' involvement never sat easily. Why such an operational footprint? Some suggest training exercises, others whisper of tests and secrets veiled by jurisdictional silence. William returned year after year, binoculars and hope, a pilgrimage without end, a photograph that never aged in the family's mind. To hikers, the field is beautiful and quiet, but some hear laughter and distant calls, a sound that might be memory, or the mountain repeating its old cruelty. Missing 411 researchers link cases by pattern, timing, silence, refusal of dogs, sudden weather. Dennis fits those marks, an arrow in the same strange quiver. Legal death cannot bury the question that wakes a father in the night. The mountain kept its secret, and the family kept the wound. Some speak of seem like places in the wild, thin spots where the world shifts. Whether legend or something stranger, the idea persists because no other answer fits cleanly. Why did the dogs stop? Why did the scent end at the trees? Why did nothing show? Rangers and trackers simply said, "We don't know. The Smokies keep their secrets, patient as the stones." Dennis remains one of them, a name that lives in the hush between trees. Sometimes, at dusk, a laugh rides the ridge, high and fleeting, like a child's and like a trick. The mountain gave nothing back. It kept its secret, and with it, the vanishing of Dennis Martin. If you walk Spencefield, listen to the wind. Listen well, this story remains open. Share what you know. Keep careful watch. If you have information, contact the National Park Service or cold case investigators. The Smokies keep their secrets. We keep their memory.